The stars shone like tiny ice crystals as he approached the field track at the rear of the deserted university campus, pulling alongside the barbed wire fence between him and the track. The winter breeze dried his lips as Alex closed his eyes halfway and breathed. His eyes rolled up into his head as he moved them back and forth in a carefully rehearsed pattern. Again, the searing lick of the cigarette lighter came as his muscles berated Alex with excruciating fury for prodding them into activity. Alex consumed the agony with his resolve and opened his eyes, blinking as he flexed his fingers, turned his wrists, and straightened his arms. The frigid breeze raced down his spine as he removed his coat, his long brown hair drifting in the breeze as he unfastened his seatbelt. The frozen ground was hard as he lowered his fully functional feet from the wheelchair's footrests, gripped his armrests, and rose from his wheelchair. Then he was standing. He was standing on his own 2 feet. He had a single heartbeat to savor the achievement before his balance betrayed him, and Alex grabbed at the fence for support to stop his fall. He was in it now, but Alex did not dare start thinking. He got his grip and climbed until he was perched on the structural bar at the top of the fence. There he squatted like a gargoyle statue on the ledge of a building's Gothic facade. Now Alex did think. If this did not work, he was going to have some explaining to do. No, really, getting trapped on top of fences is a common problem for quadriplegics, he thought to himself. Even Alex thought a telemarketer's sales pitch had more credibility than that claim as he gathered his strength, grit his teeth, and jumped. Alex sailed through the air in a forward arc with his arms out before him. When he touched down, he was standing with an ideally feline stance and aspect. Then, with a final look around, he pushed off with his feet and began to run. Instantly, the world became a thrilling storm of adrenaline-fueled motion. The breeze was suddenly an Arctic gale rushing at his face as he ran at a speed impossible for 2 human legs. Alex's head spun as the night melted into a swirling collage of formless after-images glimpsed from the corners of his eyes. His heart raced with the spirit of an animal caged but untamed, as supercharged blood fueled the muscles of a body sailing to untold heights of exhilaration. The pandemonium engulfing him was born not of fear or self-doubt. This rush was a euphoric state of excitement and self-control. Alex's body was his own, solid and capable, with all its parts and systems running in sync. His arms and hands were the struts balancing him, his legs and feet the boosters thrusting him into flight. Adrenaline had subsumed Alex's awareness beyond any count of his laps around the track. His existence was devoted to the single impulse commanding him to go faster. He was a man racing the wind and leaving it at his back, a man testing the limits of his body and discovering a home at the velocity he had achieved. But his soul was already craving more, and Alex indulged its desire by springing into a series of forward somersaults with the precision of a master acrobat. As he flipped forward, Alex realized that his arms and legs had reverted back to the human norm as his final somersault landed him on his haunches. For a long while Alex rested there, right hand on the ground for balance and the left against his leg as he reflected on how instinctive that position felt to him. His body became a high-performance speed machine, acting without its driver's intent. Alex slowly brought his breathing under control, his grin expanding into an exuberant smile. The smile vanished a second later as he was overcome by an emotional wave that seized his mind, flooding his senses with an all-consuming white noise of terror. "Stop!" Alex commanded himself, covering his eyes as the vertigo took hold and the world spun faster than a helicopter's propellers. Steeling himself, Alex started running again, the terror evaporating with the burst of speed as he pushed off the ground to clear the 6-foot height of the field's fence. After sorting himself out in his wheelchair, Alex wiped his face and put on his jacket. Then he rolled his eyes and clenched his teeth as the burning sensation flared across his forehead, the pain washing through him as his disability reasserted itself. The reversion back to his natural state was as anticlimactic as rolling along a highway on a Segway after racing down that highway in a fully loaded Ferrari. The temptation to leave his cat-like abilities active permanently was tantalizing, but pragmatism kept the temptation in check. Alex's body was still an enigmatic puzzle box of unknowns. Were his cat-like abilities as solid as the polar ice caps once seemed, or as fragile as they actually were? Alex once spent a whole night hanging around his apartment in his cat mode. The freedom of dressing himself, tying his shoes, or helping himself to a late-night snack might have been boring to others, but to Alex such activities were more fun than a Sony PlayStation. Then something unexpected happened that raised the question of whether his abilities were the dependable best friend or the cool friend who was great fun but hopelessly unreliable. Alex had just come from the bathroom when his forehead started burning as though his flesh was aflame. Before he knew it, Alex was flat on his stomach in his bedroom. His cat-like abilities were gone, and the neuromuscular bindings of his disability once again took hold. The high-performance speed machine had a bad starter, and worry chewed at Alex's gut like a rat gnawing its way out of his stomach as he tried desperately to get the engine turned over. His abilities finally jump-started later the next day, and Alex almost suspected his body of cooperating simply to stop the pestering. He had also been fortunate because, had he occupied the bathroom another couple of minutes, Lindsay would have arrived that morning and found him trapped on the toilet. "Well, Lindsay, when you gotta go, you know," he thought. Alex figured only an offer made by a lawyer who smiled a little too much was more dubious than that explanation. The scenario may have been funny, but a darker issue hung over it like a pall of toxic smoke. His best guess was that he simply pushed himself too far. But even instant lottery tickets were more reliable than best guesses. Until his body was no longer a mystery box, Alex would continue to find the cookie cutter philosophy of the Sharks as he sought solace from halos. Alex breathed deeply and started for home, feeling the drag of the emotional anchor weighing him down as the barely controlled emotional grizzly fought against its leash.